Thank you for joining us today for We Know Their Names, a virtual Srebrenica commemoration. My name is Ida Sefer, and I serve as the president of the board for the Bosnian American Genocide Institute, a nonprofit organization dedicated to research and education pertaining to the genocides that occurred in Bosnia and in the Balkans. We have gathered virtually today to honor the victims and survivors of the genocide in Srebrenica that occurred in 1995, from July 11th through July 22nd. Where 8,373 Bosnian Muslims, primarily men and boys, were executed in the Srebrenica region of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And every year on July 11th, we recognize this day as a day of mourning as we commemorate the Srebrenica genocide. This year marks the 30th anniversary of the Srebrenica genocide. To fully contextualize the story of the Srebrenica genocide, we must look back to the spring of 1992. When the war and genocide began in Bosnia and Herzegovina. After the death of Yugoslavia's primary leader, Josip Broz Tito, Islamophobic ethno-nationalism escalated throughout Yugoslavia for well over a decade before the citizens of Bosnia declared independence. As Slovenia and Croatia declared independence, the leadership and weaponry of the Yugoslav National Army became centralized in Serbia. The Islamophobic rhetoric and warmongering concerned many residents of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which led to a push for sovereignty in 1991. However, after a lack of recognition by the European Economic Community, the citizens of Bosnia and Herzegovina held a referendum for independence from the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia in spring of 1992 to validate the population's need for independence. With a voter turnout larger than 60%, 99.7% of voters agreed to an independent Bosnia and Herzegovina. The population of Bosnia and Herzegovina was historically very diverse in ethnic and religious composition, which included populations who held a firm belief in Islam, Christianity, Judaism, and many others who did not align themselves to a faith at all. Out of the 4 million residents, Muslim Bosnians, often referred to as Bosniaks, made up about 44% of the population, in comparison to 31% of Christian Orthodox Serbs and 17% of Catholic Croats who were also residents and citizens of Bosnia. On April 6, 1992, the Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina received recognition from the European Economic Community and the United States as an independent nation. The creation of an independent Bosnian nation that would have had Bosnian Muslims, Bosniaks, as a majority was opposed by many ethno-nationalist Bosnian Serbs, who launched a military campaign with the support of the Serbian government and the Yugoslav National Army. Their primary goal was to secure the territory of Bosnia and Herzegovina and to terrorize the Muslim civilian population through organized concentration camps, physical, emotional, and sexual torture, which included sexual assault, trafficking, enslavement, and forced birthing, dehumanization, the erasure of the Bosnian Muslim identity, history, and language, expulsion and theft of property, deprivation of resources, starvation, and planned and organized execution of men, women, children, and the elderly. What began with the shelling of Sarajevo on April 6, 1992, spread throughout Bosnia from concentration camps in larger cities to absolute annihilations of entire family trees in smaller villages. After 3 years of occupation, and after being designated a safe area by the United Nations in 1993, Srebrenica was overrun in July of 1995 by Bosnian Serb forces led by General Ratko Mladic. With no resistance from UN peacekeepers, Bosnian Serb militia began to systematically separate families and communities by separating the Bosniak men and boys from the women and girls. The men and boys were rounded up and taken to various execution and torture sites, where they were killed en masse and buried in 94 different mass grave sites. Some women and girls were taken to never be seen again, while others were sexually assaulted and were prevented from seeking help when they were forcibly impregnated. Young children and the elderly were not exempt from this violence. As the youngest victim, Fatima Muhic, was less than a day old when she died, while Saha Izmirlic was 94 years old when she died. According to the International Commission of Missing Persons, 563 children and 60 women were murdered in Srebrenica. The international community, represented by the United Nations peacekeeping forces, failed to protect the 8,373 men, women, children, and the elderly from being brutally murdered, all while the victims were misled into believing that they would receive protection in the event of an ambush. The brutality of the Srebrenica genocide is unfathomable. The perpetrators, after executing primarily men and boys, would later return with heavy machinery to dig up the mass graves, to disperse the remains of the victims at multiple grave sites in order to conceal the evidence of the genocide. And many victims' remains were often found in 3 to 4 mass graves as a result. Many families would have a funeral to only a year later, or even a decade later, would have to exhume the body of the victim to add the additional remains to the burial. The aftermath of the Srebrenica genocide left deep scars on Bosnia and Herzegovina. According to the International Commission of Missing Persons, of the 8,373 who were murdered in Srebrenica, 7,017 have been identified via their DNA, while there are over 1,000 still missing. To date, 6,772 people have received a proper burial in Srebrenica. This year, 7 additional victims were buried. Senaid Avdic, Haris Mujic, Rifet Gabelic, Hasib Omerovic, Sedalia Alic, Amir Mujcic. Over the 3-year span of the genocidal occupation of Bosnia, 2 million people were displaced, 100,000 people were murdered, 80% of whom were Muslims. Between 20,000 and 50,000 women were sexually assaulted. Over 30,000 people, including men, women, children, and the elderly, were imprisoned in concentration camps. The DNA evidence and the courageous testimony of survivors, some who still face threats of violence and discrimination in Bosnia, efforts towards justice were primarily executed through the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia and the International Courts of Justice, as they both recognized what happened at Srebrenica was a genocide. 20 individuals have been tried at the ICTY. 57 appeared before the State Court of Bosnia and Herzegovina, resulting in 4 life sentences and 38 other sentences due to DNA identification. While accountability has been the primary hurdle for reconciliation, the annual commemoration of the Srebrenica genocide stands as a solemn occasion to remember and mourn the victims and stand in solidarity with victims and survivors. For the last 30 years, thousands of Bosnian diaspora community members have taken the time to recognize July 11th away from Srebrenica as a day of mourning and remembrance. Some even through city, state, and country proclamations and resolutions. Last year, the UN General Assembly designated July 11th as the International Day of Reflection and Commemoration of the 1995 genocide in Srebrenica. These commemorations of the Srebrenica genocide on July 11th hold profound significance, not only for the victims and their families, but also for other victims and survivors of the genocide in Bosnia, whose perpetrators have escaped accountability. Over the next few days, you will hear a number of volunteers from around the world who have taken the time to read the names of all of the Srebrenica genocide victims. While you may not know these names personally, we want you to take the time to listen and/or read the names being recited. You may hear the same name multiple times, and that is not in error. These are all individuals who died during the Srebrenica genocide. The genocide in Srebrenica, which culminated in July of 1995, was not an isolated event, but the final chapter in a broader campaign of systemic persecution and violence against Bosnian Muslims over the period of 3 years. The genocide in Bosnia serves as a stark reminder of the horrors of war and the devastating consequences of ethnic hatred. And as a community of genocide survivors, we must have a collective commitment to truth-telling, justice, and accountability in the face of genocide denial, as we have seen time and time again how it is impacting our current political system. And we cannot do that without recognizing the devastating effects of mass imprisonment and enslavement of the Uyghurs, the destructive invasion of Ukraine, the state-sponsored violence in Syria, the genocide of the Tigray in Ethiopia, the devastating violence in Sudan, and the frightening use of military power to imprison innocent refugees and immigrants in the United States. And of course, the longest modern-day and internationally sponsored occupation and genocide of the people of Palestine. As a community of survivors, we cannot stay silent as others are dehumanized and violence against them is argued as justified and acceptable retaliation. There is no justified retaliation against a civilian population. July 11th is vital in preserving the historical record and countering denial and revisionism. By remembering and documenting the atrocities committed during the Srebrenica genocide, we confront the past and reject any attempts to distort or deny the truth. It stands as a collective commitment to truth-telling, justice, and accountability. And the first truth that must be spoken is a name. And with this act, we will know all 8,373 of their names. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sally Cottage, and today I will be reading 100 names of victims who were murdered during the Srebrenica genocide. Abid Gabelic, 47 years old. Abid Gabelic, 51 years old. Adem Gabelic, 24 years old. Ahmo Gabelic, 67 years old. Ahmo Gabelic, 87 years old. Alia Gabelic, 17 years old. Almaz Gabelic, 35 years old. Amir Gabelic, 30 years old. Asim Gabelic, 28 years old. Asim Gabelic, 48 years old. Atif Gabelic, 20 years old. Avdo Gabelic, 19 years old. Avdo Gabelic, 58 years old. Abdullah Gabelic, 36 years old. Aziz Gabelic, 24 years old. Chamil Gabelic, 52 years old. Jemail Gabelic, 23 years old. Edin Gabelic, 22 years old. Esad Gabelic, 30 years old. Eshef Gabelic, 39 years old. Fadil Gabelic, 21 years old. Fahruddin Gabelic, 19 years old. Hakia Gabelic, 26 years old. Khalid Gabelic, 24 years old. Halil Gabelic, 57 years old. Hamdia Gabelic, 23 years old. Hassan Gabelic, 41 years old. Hassan Gabelic, 49 years old. Hashim Gabelic, 45 years old. Hussein Gabelic, 51 years old. Huso Gabelic, 23 years old. Ibrahim Gabelic, 44 years old. Ibrahim Gabelic, 62 years old. Ibran Gabelic, 43 years old. Ibro Gabelic, 51 years old. Yusuf Gabelic, 32 years old. Yusuf Gabelic, 52 years old. Kadir Gabelic, 24 years old. Kadria Gabelic, 23 years old. Kemal Gabelic, 22 years old. Mahmut Gabelic, 28 years old. Meho Gabelic, 21 years old. Meho Gabelic, 24 years old. Mesud Gabelic, 16 years old. Mirsad Gabelic, 18 years old. Mirsad Gabelic, 21 years old. Mirsad Gabelic, 29 years old. Mustafa Gabelic, 57 years old. Nazif Gabelic, 44 years old. Nermin Gabelic, 19 years old. Nazir Gabelic, 44 years old. Niyaz Gabelic, 21 years old. Nusret Gabelic, 36 years old. Ohran Gabelic, 32 years old. Omer Gabelic, 32 years old. Omer Gabelic, 53 years old. Osman Gabelic, 60 years old. Osman Gabelic, 66 years old. Osmo Gabelic, 45 years old. Ramiz Gabelic, 33 years old. Ramiz Gabelic, 52 years old. Rasim Gabelic, 55 years old. Rasim Gabelic, 61 years old. Rifet Gabelic, 31 years old. Riyad Gabelic, 14 years old. Shaban Gabelic, 27 years old. Safet Gabelic, 32 years old. Salim Gabelic, 16 years old. Salim Gabelic, 27 years old. Salko Gabelic, 55 years old. Saad Gabelic, 32 years old. Shechan Gabelic, 55 years old. Senad Gabelic, 18 years old. Sharif Gabelic, 46 years old. Shevko Gabelic, 65 years old. Suleiman Gabelic, 56 years old. Ziad Gabelic, 25 years old. Alia Gagulic, 64 years old. Hassan Gagulic, 30 years old. Mehmed Gagulic, 41 years old. Meho Gagulic, 71 years old. Enver Garaljevic, 19 years old. Idris Garaljevic, 53 years old. Mehmed Garaljevic, 51 years old. Mirzet Garaljevic, 26 years old. Nermin Garaljevic, 17 years old. Nevres Garaljevic, 24 years old. Rifet Garaljevic, 44 years old. Sakib Garaljevic, 24 years old. Salim Garaljevic, 16 years old. Samir Garaljevic, 21 years old. Ibrahim Germic, 42 years old. Kemal Germic, 21 years old. Nezir Germic, 17 years old. Alia Gerovic, 32 years old. Bajro Gerovic, 35 years old. Emin Gerovic, 63 years old. Jairo Gerovic, 33 years old. Mehmed Gerovic, 50 years old. Nurif Gerovic, 55 years old.
My name is Mevludin Meshinovic. Today, I'll be reading the names of 100 victims who were murdered during the genocide in Srebrenica. Nuria Gerovic, 28 years old. Sakib Gladovic, 27 years old. Hayrudin Gluhic, 45 years old. Ibrahim Gluhic, 63 years old. Sabahuddin Gluhic, 42 years old. Hasan Gobelic, 41 years old. Jakub Gobelic, 58 years old. Lutvo Gobelic, 63 years old. Mehmedalia Gobelic, 50 years old. Nejad Gobelic, 18 years old. Seyad Gobelic, 20 years old. Senad Gobelic, 18 years old. Abdullah Gogic, 41 years old. Ahmet Gojčinović, 55 years old. Hamed Gojčinović, 25 years old. Mahmut Gojčinović, 29 years old. Munib Gojčinović, 58 years old. Sead Gojčinović, 30 years old. Alija Golić, 43 years old. Alija Golić, 67 years old. Avdo Golić, 40 years old. Ismet Golić, 32 years old. Sadik Golić, 24 years old. Sevdalija Golić, 19 years old. Ahmet Golubović, 37 years old. Adem Grbić, 67 years old. Safet Grbić, 19 years old. Admir Gurdić, 16 years old. Ahmo Gurdić, 54 years old. Ahmo Gurdić, 54 years old. Asim Gurdić, 34 years old. Bego Gurdić, 29 years old. Elvir Gurdić, 19 years old. Enes Gurdic, 57 years old. Fikret Gurdic, 26 years old. Hamza Gurdic, 52 years old. Hasib Gurdic, 36 years old. Hazim Gurdic, 23 years old. Yunus Gurdic, 42 years old. Mehrudin Gurdic, 18 years old. Mesud Gurdic, 28 years old. Mujo Gurdic, 59 years old. Mustafa Gurdic, 20 years old. Sadik Gurdic, 38 years old. Sadik Gurdic, 45 years old. Safet Gurdic, 40 years old. Sakib Gurdic, 19 years old. Zikret Gurdic, 21 years old. Arif Gushic, 31 years old. Avdia Gushic, 42 years old. Himzaga Gushic, 45 years old. Ibro Gushic, 57 years old. Meharis Gushic, 17 years old. Meho Gushic, 47 years old. Meho Gushic, unknown age at death. Mersad Gushic, 20 years old. Mirsad Gushic, 39 years old. Nazif Gushic, 42 years old. Nihad Gushic, 16 years old. Pashan Gushic, 45 years old. Hadro Gusho, 19 years old. Nezir Gusho, 41 years old. Ahmet Gushter, 41 years old. Ibro Gushter, 21 years old. Rejo Gushter, 36 years old. Zaim Gushter, 23 years old. Mehmed Gutic, 42 years old. Muhyiddin Gutic, 37 years old. Mujo Gutic, 76 years old. Nurif Gutic, 54 years old. Rashid Gutic, 46 years old. Shefik Gutic, 32 years old. Tahir Gutic, 46 years old. Hayruddin Habibovic, 34 years old. Hamdia Habibovic, 42 years old. Mirsad Habibovic, 34 years old. Nasko Habibovic, 21 years old. Nejib Habibovic, 34 years old. Samir Habibovic, 29 years old. Selvir Habibovic, 19 years old. Vahid Habibovic, 30 years old. Ziad Habibovic, 25 years old. Bahrudin Hajevic, 18 years old. Nezmir Hajevic, 22 years old. Asim Hajibulic, 63 years old. Jevad Hajibulic, 21 years old. Mevludin Hajibulic, 34 years old. Mirsad Hajibulic, 24 years old. Rashid Hajibulic, 21 years old. Senad Hajibulic, 18 years old. Suad Hajibulic, 21 years old. Suljo Hajibulic, 64 years old. Teufik Hajibulic, 25 years old. Abid Hajic, 66 years old. Ahmo Hajic, 59 years old. Bayazit Hajic, 36 years old. Jemail Hajic, 41 years old. Jamaluddin Hajic, 26 years old. Jawahid Hajic, 20 years old. Hassan Hajic, 53 years old.
My name is Elvir Klempic. Today I'll be reading the names of 100 victims who were murdered during the genocide in Srebrenica. Hasan Hajic, 55 years old. Hussein Hajic, 32 years old. Ibro Hajic, 57 years old. Yunus Hajic, 57 years old. Yunus Hajic, 44 years old. Ludvo Hajic, 57 years old. Mujo Hajic, 55 years old. Mujo Hajic, 67 years old. Mujo Hajic, 72 years old. Osman Hajic, 49 years old. Ragib Hajic, 45 years old. Rifet Hajic, 33 years old. Shahbaz Hajic, 60 years old. Salih Hajic, 57 years old. Salko Hajic, 27 years old. Sakib Hajimujagic, 57 years old. Azim Hajovic, 56 years old. Munib Hajovic, 48 years old. Mustafa Hajovic, 77 years old. Abdullah Hafizovic, 19 years old. Ahmet Hafizovic, 45 years old. Ahmo Hafizovic, 57 years old. Amir Hafizovic, 23 years old. Avda Hafizovic, 45 years old. Behadil Hafizovic, 35 years old. Jemail Hafizovic, 41 years old. Javad Hafizovic, 18 years old. Enes Hafizovic, 41 years old. Hayrullah Hafizovic, 22 years old. Hassan Hafizovic, 44 years old. Huriya Hafizovic, 77 years old. Hussein Hafizovic, 32 years old. Ibrahim Hafizovic, 42 years old. Qasim Hafizovic, 62 years old. Meho Hafizovic, 21 years old. Mohammed Hafizovic, 39 years old. Munib Hafizovic, 46 years old. Muris Hafizovich, 36 years old. Mustafa Hafizovich, 18 years old. Salka Hafizovich, 19 years old. Saad Hafizovich, 42 years old. Saima Hafizovich, 24 years old. Sanahid Hafizovich, 60 years old. Tahir Hafizovich, 46 years old. Vahid Hafizovich, 19 years old. Vehab Hafizovich, 45 years old. Zama Hafizovich, 41 years old. Admin Haidarovich, unknown age at death. Alia Haidarovich, 56 years old. Amir Haidarovich, 19 years old. Azmir Haidarovich, 18 years old. Bayra Haidarovich, 67 years old. Edhem Haidarovich, 43 years old. Edin Haidarovich, 16 years old. Edmir Haidarovich, 34 years old. Enes Haidarovich, 16 years old. Fadel Haidarovich, 58 years old. Fahim Haidarovich, 35 years old. Hakia Haidarovich, 57 years old. Khalid Haidarovich, 24 years old. Hamid Haidarovich, 62 years old. Hussein Haidarovich, 45 years old. Ibrahim Haidarovich, 52 years old. Kadria Haidarovich, 34 years old. Kemal Haidarovich, 43 years old. Mehmet Haidarovich, 26 years old. Mehmet Haidarovich, 41 years old. Mehmed Ali Haidarovich, 46 years old. Mevludin Haidarovich, 25 years old. Mirza Haidarovich, 18 years old. Mirza Haidarovich, 21 years old. Muya Haidarovich, 28 years old. Muya Haidarovich, 43 years old. Mustafa Haidarovich, 54 years old. Nazir Haidarovich, 55 years old. Omer Haidarovich, 49-year-old. Omer Haidarovich, 61 years old. Ragib Haidarovich, 54 years old. Ramahuddin Haidarovich, 23 years old. Sabahat Haidarovich, 34 years old. Sabahuddin Haidarovich, 38 years old. Shaban Haidarovich, 39 years old. Sabit Haidarovich, 40 years old. Shahin Haidarovich, 50 years old. Saud Haidarovich, 17 years old. Sefat Haidarovich, 32 years old. Sinan Haidarovich, 59 years old. Vahid Haidarovich, 26 years old. Zuda Haidarovich, 42 years old. Mehmed Hayrich, 27 years old. Almir Hakic, 16 years old. Elvir Hakic, 20 years old. Fahruddin Hakic, 26 years old. Haydo Hakic, 50 years old. Medo Hakic, 33 years old. Nurdin Hakic, 22 years old. Nurdin Hakic, 30 years old. Saad Hakic, 34 years old. Senat Hakic, 30 years old. Vasil Hakic, 40 years old. Abdullah Halilovich, 66 years old.
My name is Denis Smilovich. Today I will be reading the names of 100 victims who were murdered during the genocide in Srebrenica. Admir Halilovich, 33 years old. Ahmedin Halilovich, 19 years old. Ahmet Halilovich, 42 years old. Alaga Halilovich, 64 years old. Alia Halilovich, unknown age at death. Almir Halilovich, 16 years old. Almir Halilovich, 20 years old. Asim Halilovich, 44 years old. Asim Halilovich, 51 years old. Asim Halilovich, 54 years old. Asim Halilovich, 55 years old. Asim Halilovich, 67 years old. Avdo Halilovich, 39 years old. Azmir Halilovich, 23 years old. Bahruddin Halilovich, 20 years old. Bayro Halilovich, 61 years old. Behia Halilovich, 42 years old. Denis Halilovich, 14 years old. Dino Halilovich, 16 years old. Jemal Halilovich, 41 years old. Jemaluddin Halilovich, 38 years old. Jemir Halilovich, 18 years old. Jevad Halilovic, 37 years old. Edhem Halilovic, 43 years old. Edhem Halilovic, 58 years old. Elvir Halilovic, 17 years old. Emir Halilovic, 36 years old. Enver Halilovic, 22 years old. Enver Halilovic, 46 years old. Esed Halilovic, 57 years old. Esnaf Halilovic, 19 years old. Fadil Halilovic, 31 years old. Fadil Halilovic, 56 years old. Ferid Halilovic, 29 years old. Ferid Halilovic, 38 years old. Hayro Halilovic, 27 years old. Hayro Halilovic, 53 years old. Hayro Halilovic, 59 years old. Hayrudin Halilovic, 19 years old. Hayrudin Halilovic, 26 years old. Hayrudin Halilovic, 27 years old. Hakia Halilovic, 26 years old. Hakia Halilovic, 28 years old. Halid Halilovic, 34 years old. Hamdia Halilovic, 30 years old. Hamdia Halilovic, 32 years old. Hamdia Halilovic, 35 years old. Hamed Halilovic, 26 years old. Hamed Halilovic, 33 years old. Hamed Halilovic, 41 years old. Hamed Halilovic, 62 years old. Hamid Halilovic, 62 years old. Hanumka Halilovic, 77 years old. Hassan Halilovic, 33 years old. Hasib Halilovic, 66 years old. Hazim Halilovic, 31 years old. Hussein Halilovic, 38 years old. Huso Halilovic, 41 years old. Huso Halilovic, 44 years old. Ibrahim Halilovic, 17 years old. Ibrahim Halilovic, 49 years old. Ibrishim Halilovic, 70 years old. Ibro Halilovic, 23 years old. Ibro Halilovic, 44 years old. Islam Halilovic, 21 years old. Izzet Halilovic, 26 years old. Izzet Halilovic, 44 years old. Yusuf Halilovic, 47 years old. Yusuf Halilovic, 57 years old. Kadmir Halilovic, 20 years old. Kadria Halilovic, 38 years old. Kadria Halilovic, 55 years old. Medo Halilovic, 27 years old. Mehan Halilovic, 59 years old. Mehmed Halilovic, 62 years old. Mehmed Alia Halilovic, 39 years old. Meho Halilovic, 62 years old. Memish Halilovic, 58 years old. Mensur Halilovic, 38 years old. Mesud Halilovic, 35 years old. Mevludin Halilovic, 33 years old. Mevludin Halilovic, 38 years old. Mirsad Halilovic, 29 years old. Mufid Halilovic, 15 years old. Muhammad Halilovic, 23 years old. Muhammad Halilovic, 23 years old. Muhammad Halilovic, 26 years old. Mujo Halilovic, 66 years old. Mujo Halilovic, unknown age at death. Munib Halilovic, 43 years old. Munib Halilovic, 52 years old. Muriz Halilovic, 23 years old. Mustafa Halilovic, 18 years old. Mustafa Halilovic, 50 years old. Mustafa Halilovic, 65 years old. Nazif Halilovic, 57 years old. Nazir Halilovic, 18 years old. Nazir Halilovic, 20 years old. Nazir Halilovic, 55 years old. Nufik Halilovic, 16 years old.
My name is Anna Krogart. Today I'm going to read the names of victims murdered during the genocide in Srebrenica. Nurdin Halilovic, 59 years old. Nurif Halilovic, 68 years old. Nuria Halilovic, 15 years old. Nusrat Halilovic, 25 years old. Omer Halilovic, 37 years old. Osman Halilovic, 26 years old. Osman Halilovic, 42 years old. Osman Halilovic, 62 years old. Asmo Halilovic, 37 years old. Ragib Halilovic, 55 years old. Ramiz Halilovic, 33 years old. Ramiz Halilovic, 40 years old. Ramo Halilovic, 48 years old. Ramo Halilovic, 61 years old. Rashid Halilovic, 35 years old. Rashid Halilovic, 40 years old. Rejo Halilovic, 52 years old. Rifat Halilovic, 35 years old. Sabahet Halilovic, 39 years old. Shaban Halilovic, 17 years old. Shaban Halilovic, 44 years old. Shaban Halilovic, 45 years old. Shaban Halilovic, 48 years old. Sabit Halilovic, 20 years old. Sabit Halilovic, 34 years old. Sabria Halilovic, 31 years old. Sado Halilovic, 40 years old. Safet Halilovic, 36 years old. Safet Halilovic, 47 years old. Shabaz Halilovic, 31 years old. Shahin Halilovic, 70 years old. Saib Halilovic, 19 years old. Sakib Halilovic, 36 years old. Salchin Halilovic, 42 years old. Sali Halilovic, 23 years old. Sali Halilovic, 57 years old. Sali Halilovic, unknown age at death. Salim Halilovic, 20 years old. Salko Halilovic, 38 years old. Salko Halilovic, 41 years old. Samir Halilovic, 31 years old. Sayad Halilovic, 25 years old. Said Halilovic, 28 years old. Sedalia Halilovic, 20 years old. Sedalia Halilovic, 30 years old. Sedalia Halilovic, 42 years old. Salmo Halilovic, 42 years old. Samir Halilovic, 17 years old. Shamso Halilovic, 32 years old. Senahib Halilovic, 36 years old. Ismail Halilovic, 53 years old. Ismail Halilovic, 47 years old. Suad Halilovic, 17 years old. Suleiman Halilovic, 39 years old. Vedad Halilovic, 21 years old. Vebia Halilovic, 59 years old. Zahid Halilovic, 25 years old. Zaim Halilovic, 44 years old. Ziad Halilovic, 18 years old. Zoran Halilovic, 34 years old. Zuhriyat Halilovic, 34 years old. Zulfo Halilovic, 31 years old. Yusuf Hamidovic, 47 years old. Mustafa Hamidovic, 30 years old. Osman Hamidovic, 31 years old. Sedalia Hamidovic, 22 years old. Selim Hamidovic, 39 years old. Adil Hamzabegovic, 34 years old. Jamal Hamzabegovic, 19 years old. Javad Hamzabegovic, 30 years old. Fadl Hamzabegovic, 72 years old. Fahim Hamzabegovic, 25 years old. Feta Hamzabegovic, 62 years old. Ibrahim Hamzabegovic, 66 years old. Ibro Hamzabegovic, 35 years old. Mehmedalia Hamzabegovic, 38 years old. Meho Hamzabegovic, 72 years old. Mevludin Hamza Begovic, 22 years old. Nazif Hamza Begovic, 58 years old. Safet Hamza Begovic, 27 years old. Sayad Hamza Begovic, 30 years old. Sheval Hamza Begovic, 24 years old. Veysel Hamza Begovic, 56 years old. Alio Hamzic, 53 years old. Bego Hamzic, 32 years old. Isak Hamzic, 29 years old. Islam Hamzic, 24 years old. Ismet Hamzic, 54 years old. Mevlid Hamzic, 23 years old. Mirsad Hamzic, 22 years old. Muichin Hamzic, 33 years old. Muyo Hamzic, 40 years old. Nuria Hamzic, 31 years old. Ramo Hamzic, 68 years old. Rasim Hamzic, 20 years old. Reuf Hamzic, 34 years old. Rizo Hamzic, 18 years old. Sakib Hamzic, 34 years old. Salchin Hamzic, 36 years old.
My name is Emina Hasanagic Durmisevich, and today I will be reading to you the names of 100 victims of the Srebrenica genocide. Samir Hamzic, 19 years old. Smile Hamzic, 63 years old. Smile Hamzic, 58 years old. Abid Hanjic, 23 years old. Azem Hanjic, 27 years old. Fadil Hanjic, 32 years old. Hakia Hanjic, 55 years old. Hasan Hanjic, 63 years old. Hirkia Hanjic, 19 years old. Hussein Hanjic, 38 years old. Sadat Hanjic, 20 years old. Seydalia Hanjic, 30 years old. Ara Hanjic, unknown age at death. Dervish Hanic, unknown age at death. Yusuf Hanic, 40 years old. Meho Hanic, 23 years old. Ramiz Hanic, unknown age at death. Recep Hanic, 48 years old. Rashid Hanic, 21 years old. Salim Hanic, 18 years old. Selim Hanic, 16 years old. Mehmet Ali Hankic, 28 years old. Muya Hankic, 32 years old. Adem Harbash, 21 years old. Amir Harbash, 24 years old. Asim Harbash, 43 years old. Azmir Harbash, 22 years old. Bayro Harbash, 48 years old. Bego Harbash, 59 years old. Enes Harbash, 28 years old. Enes Harbash, 48 years old. Hayruddin Harbash, 21 years old. Hassan Harbash, 44 years old. Hassan Harbash, 46 years old. Hazim Harbash, 24 years old. Hussein Harbash, 37 years old. Ragib Harbash, 47 years old. Shaban Harbash, 23 years old. Sakib Harbash, 20 years old. Sakib Harbash, 35 years old. Samir Harbash, 22 years old. Shemso Harbash, 43 years old. Vasil Harbash, 35 years old. Zakariya Harbash, 23 years old. Aziz Hasankovic, 24 years old. Javad Hasankovic, 33 years old. Esad Hasankovic, 21 years old. Nejat Hasankovic, 31 years old. Sadik Hasankovic, 49 years old. Vakaz Hasankovic, 30 years old. Zaim Hasankovic, 67 years old. Abdullah Hasanovic, 34 years old. Abdullah Hasanovic, 40 years old. Abdullah Hasanovic, 56 years old. Abdul Qadir Hasanovic, 34 years old. Abdurrahman Hasanovic, 42 years old. Abid Hasanovic, 26 years old. Adem Hasanovic, 51 years old. Adil Hasanovic, 39 years old. Adil Hasanovic, 48 years old. Ahmed Hasanovic, 63 years old. Ahmo Hasanovic, 18 years old. Ahmo Hasanovic, 22 years old. Alaga Hasanovic, 20 years old. Alia Hasanovic, 37 years old. Alia Hasanovic, 46 years old. Alia Hasanovic, 54 years old. Alia Hasanovic, 54 years old. Alia Hasanovic, 68 years old. Alia Hasanovic, 75 years old. Almaz Hasanovic, 17 years old. Almaz Hasanovic, 22 years old. Amil Hasanovic, 47 years old. Amir Hasanovic, unknown age at death. Arif Hasanovic, 51 years old. Asim Hasanovic, 26 years old. Asim Hasanovic, 31 years old. Asim Hasanovic, 47 years old. Avdo Hasanovic, 60 years old. Avdo Hasanovic, 60 years old. Aziz Hasanovic, 41 years old. Azmir Hasanovic, 16 years old. Bahruddin Hasanovic, 33 years old. Bayro Hasanovic, 45 years old. Bayro Hasanovic, 59 years old. Bekir Hasanovic, 34 years old. Began Hasanovic, 39 years old. Bego Hasanovic, 54 years old. Behadil Hasanovic, 38 years old. Behruddin Hasanovic, 33 years old. Benjamin Hasanovic, 21 years old. Beris Hasanovic, 20 years old. Besim Hasanovic, 17 years old. Chamil Hasanovic, 71 years old. Chamil Hasanovic, unknown age at death. Daud Hasanovic, 58 years old. Jamail Hasanovic, 24 years old. Jamail Hasanovic, 56 years old. Jamal Hasanovic, 16 years old. Jamal Hasanovic, 34 years old.
My name is Elia Varela, and today I will be reading the names of 100 victims who were murdered during the genocide in Srebrenica. Jemal Hasanovic, 56 years old. Jemo Hasanovic, 25 years old. Edem Hasanovic, 40 years old. Eyüp Hasanovic, 40 years old. Eyüp Hasanovic, 32 years old. Eyüp Hasanovic, 40 years old. Elvir Hasanovic, 22 years old. Emin Hasanovic, 45 years old. Emir Hasanovic, 17 years old. Emir Hasanovic, 22 years old. Enes Hasanovic, 20 years old. Enes Hasanovic, 37 years old. Enes Hasanovic, 54 years old. Enis Hasanovic, 17 years old. Enis Hasanovic, 20 years old. Enver Hasanovic, 32 years old. Ermin Hasanovic, 24 years old. Esad Hasanovic, 25 years old. Esed Hasanovic, 39 years old. Esed Hasanovic, 62 years old. Esmir Hasanovic, 17 years old. Esnaf Hasanovic, 26 years old. Esnef Hasanovic, 21 years old. Fadil Hasanovic, 46 years old. Fahret Hasanovic, 24 years old. Fakhruddin Hasanovic, 30 years old. Faiko Hasanovic, 65 years old. Ferit Hasanovic, 38 years old. Fetahia Hasanovic, 40 years old. Fikret Hasanovic, 22 years old. Fikret Hasanovic, 43 years old. Haydin Hasanovic, 45 years old. Jairo Hasanovic, 19 years old. Jairo Hasanovic, 43 years old. Jairo Hasanovic, 57 years old. Khairuddin Hasanovic, 20 years old. Khairuddin Hasanovic, 34 years old. Khairuddin Hasanovic, 54 years old. Hakia Hasanovic, 47 years old. Hakia Hasanovic, 51 years old. Khalid Hasanovic, 29 years old. Halil Hasanovic, 33 years old. Hamdia Hasanovic, 36 years old. Hamdia Hasanovic, 36 years old. Hamdia Hasanovic, 54 years old. Hamid Hasanovic, 20 years old. Hamid Hasanovic, 29 years old. Hamid Hasanovic, 31 years old. Hamid Hasanovic, 32 years old. Hamid Hasanovic, 52 years old. Hamid Hasanovic, 56 years old. Haris Hasanovic, 24 years old. Hassan Hasanovic, 21 years old. Hassan Hasanovic, 29 years old. Hassan Hasanovic, 65 years old. Hassan Hasanovic, 72 years old. Hasib Hasanovic, 20 years old. Hasib Hasanovic, 25 years old. Hasib Hasanovic, 54 years old. Hashim Hasanovic, 39 years old. Hasso Hasanovic, 43 years old. Haso Hasanovic, unknown age at death. Hazim Hasanovic, 17 years old. Hido Hasanovic, 28 years old. Hrusto Hasanovic, 39 years old. Hurem Hasanovic, 35 years old. Hussein Hasanovic, 20 years old. Hussein Hasanovic, 40 years old. Hussein Hasanovic, 43 years old. Hussein Hasanovic, 55 years old. Hussein Hasanovic, 65 years old. Huso Husanovic, 50 years old. Huso Hasanovic, 54 years old. Huso Hasanovic, 60 years old. Husrev Hasanovic, 41 years old. Ibish Hasanovic, 43 years old. Ibrahim Hasanovic, 29 years old. Ibrahim Hasanovic, 36 years old. Ibro Hasanovic, 51 years old. Ibro Hasanovic, 54 years old. Ibro Hasanovic, 70 years old. Ibro Hasanovic, unknown age at death. Irfan Hasanovic, 28 years old. Ismet Hasanovic, 24 years old. Ismet Hasanovic, 27 years old. Ismet Hasanovic, 38 years old. Ismet Hasanovic, 45 years old. Ismet Hasanovic, 51 years old. Ismet Hasanovic, 59 years old. Yasmin Hasanovic, 19 years old. Yuso Hasanovic, 19 years old. Yusuf Hasanovic, 19 years old. Yusuf Hasanovic, 35 years old. Kadriya Hasanovic, 33 years old. Kadriya Hasanovic, 56 years old. Kasim Hasanovic, 51 years old. Kasim Hasanovic, 51 years old. Kemal Hasanovic, 55 years old. Mehmet Hasanovic, 28 years old.
My name is Emina Smailagic. Today I will be reading the names of 100 victims who were murdered during the genocide in Srebrenica. Mehmed Hasanovic, 56 years old. Mehmed Hasanovic, 63 years old. Mehmedalia Hasanovic, 35 years old. Mehmedalia Hasanovic, 40 years old. Mehmedalia Hasanovic, 44 years old. Mehmedalia Hasanovic, 56 years old. Meho Hasanovic, 46 years old. Meho Hasanovic, 58 years old. Meho Hasanovic, 59 years old. Memish Hasanovic, 21 years old. Mesud Hasanovic, 18 years old. Mevludin Hasanovic, 21 years old. Mevludin Hasanovic, 38 years old. Mevludin Hasanovic, 44 years old. Mirsad Hasanovic, 27 years old. Mirsad Hasanovic, 34 years old. Mohammed Hasanovic, 18 years old. Mohammed Hasanovic, 21 years old. Mohammed Hasanovic, 63 years old. Muharrem Hasanovic, 26 years old. Mujo Hasanovic, 37 years old. Mujo Hasanovic, 47 years old. Mujo Hasanovic, 57 years old. Mujo Hasanovic, 67 years old. Mumin Hasanovic, 18 years old. Munib Hasanovic, 24 years old. Munib Hasanovic, 32 years old. Munib Hasanovic, 60 years old. Muris Hasanovic, 21 years old. Muris Hasanovic, 24 years old. Mushan Hasanovic, 57 years old. Mustafa Hasanovic, 28 years old. Mustafa Hasanovic, 30 years old. Mustafa Hasanovic, 45 years old. Mustafa Hasanovic, 48 years old. Mustafa Hasanovic, 56 years old. Mustafa Hasanovic, 60 years old. Mustafa Hasanovic, 65 years old. Nail Hasanovic, 32 years old. Nazif Hasanovic, 53 years old. Najib Hasanovic, 33 years old. Najib Hasanovic, 42 years old. Najib Hasanovic, 43 years old. Nafail Hasanovic, 15 years old. Nermin Hasanovic, 22 years old. Nasib Hasanovic, 38 years old. Nazir Hasanovic, 46 years old. Nazir Hasanovic, 73 years old. Nihad Hasanovic, 16 years old. Nihad Hasanovic, 23 years old. Niyaz Hasanovic, 15 years old. Nurif Hasanovic, 44 years old. Nuria Hasanovic, 32 years old. Nuriz Hasanovic, 22 years old. Nurko Hasanovic, 56 years old. Nusret Hasanovic, 29 years old. Nusret Hasanovic, 39 years old. Nusret Hasanovic, 42 years old. Orhan Hasanovic, 37 years old. Omer Hasanovic, 43 years old. Omer Hasanovic, 51 years old. Omer Hasanovic, 54 years old. Osman Hasanovic, 20 years old. Osman Hasanovic, 34 years old. Osman Hasanovic, 45 years old. Osman Hasanovic, 53 years old. Osmo Hasanovic, 32 years old. Ramiz Hasanovic, 48 years old. Ramo Hasanovic, 16 years old. Rasim Hasanovic, 54 years old. Rasim Hasanovic, 60 years old. Rejo Hasanovic, 36 years old. Rejo Hasanovic, 40 years old. Refik Hasanovic, 34 years old. Remzudin Hasanovic, 13 years old. Rashad Hasanovic, unknown age at death. Rashid Hasanovic, 66 years old. Resho Hasanovic, 21 years old. Rifat Hasanovic, 23 years old. Rifat Hasanovic, 25 years old. Sabahuddin Hasanovic, 19 years old. Sabahuddin Hasanovic, 27 years old. Shaban Hasanovic, 40 years old. Shaban Hasanovic, 52 years old. Shaban Hasanovic, 55 years old. Sabit Hasanovic, 25 years old. Sabit Hasanovic, 28 years old. Shachir Hasanovic, 66 years old. Sadif Hasanovic, 34 years old. Sadik Hasanovic, 27 years old. Sadik Hasanovic, 31 years old. Sadik Hasanovic, 37 years old. Sadik Hasanovic, 51 years old. Sadik Hasanovic, 60 years old. Safedin Hasanovic, 20 years old. Sakib Hasanovic, 35 years old. Sakib Hasanovic, 37 years old. Salchin Hasanovic, 17 years old. Salih Hasanovic, 29 years old. Salih Hasanovic, 37 years old.
My name is Malik Sakic, and today I will be reading 100 names of the victims who were murdered during the genocide in Srebrenica. Salih Hasanovic, 49 years old. Salih Hasanovic, 57 years old. Samir Hasanovic, 21 years old. Saad Hasanovic, 24 years old. Saad Hasanovic, 34 years old. Shechen Hasanovic, 54 years old. Shefa Hasanovic, 75 years old. Sefedin Hasanovic, 20 years old. Sefedin Hasanovic, 26 years old. Sefer Hasanovic, 39 years old. Shefik Hasanovic, 25 years old. Shefik Hasanovic, 36 years old. Selim Hasanovic, 55 years old. Selman Hasanovic, 26 years old. Selver Hasanovic, 18 years old. Semir Hasanovic, 20 years old. Semir Hasanovic, 20 years old. Semiz Hasanovic, 21 years old. Shemso Hasanovic, 31 years old. Shemsuddin Hasanovic, 50 years old. Senad Hasanovic, 18 years old. Senad Hasanovic, 26 years old. Senad Hasanovic, 27 years old. Senahid Hasanovic, 30 years old. Senahid Hasanovic, 35 years old. Senahid Hasanovic, 43 years old. Senahid Hasanovic, 17 years old. Sheval Hasanovic, 17 years old. Sheval Hasanovic, 23 years old. Shevket Hasanovic, 21 years old. Shevko Hasanovic, 38 years old. Shevko Hasanovic, 56 years old. Shevko Hasanovic, 57 years old. Shevko Hasanovic, 57 years old. Smail Hasanovic, 32 years old. Suleiman Hasanovic, 45 years old. Suleiman Hasanovic, 54 years old. Sulo Hasanovic, 32 years old. Sulo Hasanovic, 42 years old. Sulo Hasanovic, 42 years old. Teufik Hasanovic, 30 years old. Vahid Hasanovic, 30 years old. Vehbia Hasanovic, 46 years old. Velid Hasanovic, 21 years old. Zahid Hasanovic, 23 years old. Zahid Hasanovic, 31 years old. Zahir Hasanovic, 29 years old. Zahir Hasanovic, 68 years old. Zaim Hasanovic, 27 years old. Zaim Hasanovic, 35 years old. Zehrudin Hasanovic, 19 years old. Ziad Hasanovic, 29 years old. Ahmedin Hasic, 18 years old. Ahmo Hasic, 42 years old. Alija Hasic, 67 years old. Asim Hasic, 39 years old. Azmir Hasic, unknown age at death. Dahmo Hasic, 29 years old. Jevad Hasic, 25 years old. Edhem Hasic, 48 years old. Edhem Hasic, 51 years old. Edin Hasic, 16 years old. Edin Hasic, 51 years old. Esed Hasic, 35 years old. Hamdia Hasic, 30 years old. Hamdia Hasic, 31 years old. Hamed Hasic, 51 years old. Hassan Hasic, 14 years old. Hassan Hasic, 33 years old. Hussein Hasic, 65 years old. Ismet Hasic, 37 years old. Yasmin Hasic, unknown age at death. Yunus Hasic, 51 years old. Yusuf Hasic, 45 years old. Mehmed Hasic, 41 years old. Mehmed Hasic, 45 years old. Muhammad Hasic, 19 years old. Muhyiddin Hasic, 23 years old. Muyo Hasic, 24 years old. Muyo Hasic, 60 years old. Munib Hasic, 28 years old. Munib Hasic, 30 years old. Munib Hasic, 31 years old. Munir Hasic, 20 years old. Mustafa Hasic, 63 years old. Nazif Hasic, 54 years old. Nejib Hasic, 38 years old. Nevres Hasic, 22 years old. Nezir Hasic, 33 years old. Niaz Hasic, 36 years old. Nuria Hasic, 49 years old. Nusret Hasic, 19 years old. Omer Hasic, 56 years old. Osman Hasic, 43 years old. Ramo Hasic, 46 years old. Remzia Hasic, 29 years old. Rifet Hasic, 35 years old. Shaban Hasic, 25 years old. Sadik Hasic, 34 years old. Samir Hasic, 19 years old.
My name is Bekir Hodzic. Today, I'll be reading the names of 100 victims who were murdered during the genocide in Srebrenica. Sead Hasic, 25 years old. Sead Hasic, 32 years old. Senad Hasic, 25 years old. Sheval Hasic, 23 years old. Smile Hasic, 48 years old. Zaim Hasic, 25 years old. Zemir Hasic, 18 years old. Ziad Hasic, 21 years old. Adam Haskic, 58 years old. Ahmo Haskic, 20 years old. Jemail Haskic, 40 years old. Fikret Haskic, 44 years old. Sabahuddin Haskic, 18 years old. Samir Haskic, 18 years old. Sulio Haskic, 41 years old. Dervish Hatunic, 34 years old. Mohammed Hecho, 48 years old. Mustafa Hidic, 40 years old. Sasha Hidic, 31 years old. Suleiman Hidic, 64 years old. Ahmo Hirkic, 36 years old. Behadil Hirkic, 22 years old. Berisa Hirkic, 31 years old. Deris Hirkic, 32 years old. Jamal Hirkic, 36 years old. Anis Hirkic, 30 years old. Halid Hirkic, 19 years old. Halid Hirkic, 57 years old. Hussein Hirkic, 46 years old. Ismail Hirkic, 24 years old. Ismet Hirkic, 36 years old. Yusuf Hirkic, 51 years old. Maho Hirkic, 60 years old. Mehan Hirkic, 45 years old. Muyo Hirkic, 22 years old. Nazif Hirkic, 38 years old. Razim Hirkic, 42 years old. Rashid Hirkic, 42 years old. Sabahuddin Hirkic, 20 years old. Suljo Hirkic, 30 years old. Abdullah Hodzic, 31 years old. Abdullah Hodzic, 43 years old. Abid Hodzic, 56 years old. Adam Hodzic, 61 years old. Adil Hodzic, 21 years old. Adil Hodzic, 37 years old. Ahmed Hodzic, 58 years old. Alia Hodzic, 19 years old. Alia Hodzic, 24 years old. Alia Hodzic, 61 years old. Avdo Hodzic, 66 years old. Aziz Hodzic, 30 years old. Bayazid Hodzic, 36 years old. Bekir Hodzic, 55 years old. Bekir Hodzic, 26 years old. Beris Hodzic, 37 years old. Daoud Hodzic, unknown age at death. Jamal Hodzic, 54 years old. Javahid Hodzic, 20 years old. Edhem Hodzic, 18 years old. Edhem Hodzic, 35 years old. Farudin Hodzic, 22 years old. Farid Hodzic, 35 years old. Fahim Hodzic, 41 years old. Farid Hodzic, 16 years old. Fikret Hodzic, 39 years old. Fuad Hodzic, 18 years old. Khalid Hodzic, 56 years old. Hamdia Hodzic, 26 years old. Hamed Hodzic, 38 years old. Hamid Hodzic, 60 years old. Hassan Hodzic, 38 years old. Hassan Hodzic, 54 years old. Hashim Hodzic, 60 years old. Hazim Hodzic, 30 years old. Hazim Hodzic, 36 years old. Hidayat Hodzic, 21 years old. Hidan Hodzic, 38 years old. Himzo Hodzic, 49 years old. Hussein Hodzic, 19 years old. Hussein Hodzic, 23 years old. Hussein Hodzic, 64 years old. Huso Hodzic, 30 years old. Ibrahim Hodzic, 35 years old. Ibrahim Hodzic, 36 years old. Ibrahim Hodzic, 46 years old. Ismet Hodzic, 49 years old. Ismet Hodzic, 55 years old. Yunus Hodzic, 44 years old. Yusuf Hodzic, 18 years old. Yusuf Hodzic, 53 years old. Kamal Hodzic, 21 years old. Maho Hodzic, 60 years old. Mehdin Hodzic, 17 years old. Mehmed Hodzic, 39 years old. Mehmed Hodzic, 35 years old. Mehmed Hodzic, 39 years old. Meshan Hodzic, 45 years old. Mohammed Hodzic, 61 years old. Muyo Hodzic, 19 years old.